Roots 101 Deeply Rooted. From the vibrant and storied heart of America, brought to you by the Roots 101 African American Museum, this is the Deeply Rooted Podcast, where we pay homage to the unsung heroes, the pillars of our community, the inventors, the artists, the activists, and our ancestors by highlighting Black excellence of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Your guide on this journey, none other than the passionate and insightful Lamont Collins, a visionary, a mentor, a scholar, and most importantly, a griot of African American history and culture. So sit back, tune in, and let's dive deep into the rich soil as we get deeply rooted.
Hey everybody, this is Lamont Collins, Deeply Rooted at Roots 101 African American Museum. And today we're bringing Deeply Rooted back, and we bring it back with the leader in the community, someone that everybody knows in the city of Louisville. She is not an ancestor yet, but she will be somebody that will live the history when she leaves. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Elmer Lucille Allen.
And beside her is a professor and a teacher at Spalding University. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Deontay Holloway.
All right, Dante, can you tell us why we're here today? We're at Roots 101. This particular exhibit is my Big Mama's room. This is where I'll talk about history. Our history wasn't told in history books. It was told in Big Mama's house.
Right.
Big Mama told us we could make it no matter what the world said. So it was only an honor to put Miss Lucille in Big Mama's house, because she is someone that that knows the story of what the struggle was and what the success was during the struggle. She could probably talk about her family and how important the family is. So Big Mama's house is a place to be.
That's right.
So let's talk today about what you're doing at Spalding.
Yes, sir. So February 18th and 19th, we will be honoring the legendary Elmer Lucille Allen, who was one of our first African American graduates back when Spalding University was known as Nazareth College. And so we have honored her. This will be our 7th year. We started our conference out with just myself and a group of students. I did approach Miss Elmer Lucille about doing a conference in her honor. I never imagined in my whole wildest dreams it would be this big, but it's turned into something that's really a big deal in our community. And so I just wanted to stop by to let the folks know February 18th and February 19th, the conference will be on our campus, and it's free and open to the public.
Well, cool. You know, I always say legacies matter, right?
That's right.
And no bigger legacy than Miss Lucille. So talk about Miss Lucille. Talk about who you are and what got you going in the city.
Who am I?
Yeah, who are you?
Well, Elmer Lucille Allen. First of all, you want to know who is Elmer? Elmer, I was named for my father. In our family home, it was my brother was named after my father. So they called me Seal. So, but I never used that since I was a child. But I grew up at 18th and Chestnut, which is now Russell. And I lived in a rooming house. My mother had a rooming house, 3 floors, and we stayed on the first floor. And since it was rented out, there was also bathrooms upstairs, but we had to take a bath in 10 tubs because we were children, and she did not want men to be molesting us. I grew up right across the street, what is now West Chestnut Street Baptist Church, and at 17th Street is Plymouth Congregation Church. And if you go around on 17th Street, there used to be a Shepherd pool over there. And
My mother worked at that pool
yeah,
as a teenager.
my brother was a swimming coach there also. I went to Western Elementary School, Madison Junior High, and Central High School. And when I graduated from Central High School in 1949, I could not go to University of Louisville. But University of Louisville had a black school for Louisville Municipal College. I went there for 2 years, and then in 1951, University of Louisville closed Louisville Municipal College. But I was sending myself to school, and I could not afford to go to University of Louisville. And I went to Nazareth, and that is where I got my first degree in math and chemistry. And as I tell everybody now, if I had not graduated from Nazareth in 1953, I would not have been working at Brown-Forman. And when you say, why is Brown-Forman is important? I worked at Brown-Forman for 30 years. And you say, how did you get the job? Well, I got the job. I was working for Dr. Bronner at the Medical Dental Research, and a lady asked me if I wanted to apply for a job there, and I said yes. And so I got a job there in 1961, and I retired from there in 1997. And you say, and now I do art. And I said, how did you get involved in art? I got involved in art back in the 1970s because I had arthritis in my hand, and they told me I needed to take ceramics. And I took ceramics at night at Seneca High School from an art therapist. And that's where it began. And from there, I've gone on, and life has been something. But when I graduated from Central High School, I could not get a job in Louisville as a chemist. So my first job, as I tell everybody, a job is better than no job. And I went to Indianapolis, and I worked at the Army maps, worked at Army, for the Army there as a clerk typist. And also I worked in a General Hospital in Indianapolis. And it's just gone from there. And when you say, when did you go to Brown-Forman? So much has happened since I went to Brown-Forman. But you don't realize that you make a difference in life in what you do. And I believe everybody needs an education. You need to go to school. You need to be a person that interacts with everyone. Speak to everybody every day. You do not have to interact with them, but you need to speak to people every day. And that is what I do. And I enjoy going to school. And here I am, 93 years old, and I'm still going to University of Louisville, taking ceramic classes.
Never too old to learn, right?
You're never too old to learn.
But your history is so important to the community, and definitely to Spalding. You talk about Nazareth was the name before it became Spalding, right?
Yes, right.
So as you being a professor at Spalding, seeing all the different kids that are evolving through Spalding now versus then, how do you feel as a professor that's teaching African American history? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, in this environment, how do you feel having that opportunity? I know at the museum, I feel so many different ways. In 5 years, I'm right in the middle of people trying to stop us from telling our story.
Yes.
And that became a purpose driven for me to be in this, because we have to tell our children our story. And the education matters, and our story matters too, right? So as a professor, tell me how this atmosphere has taken you and the importance of teaching history at Spalding.
So, as you said, one of the things that Roots 101 celebrates, and also with my program at Spalding in African American Studies, is the storytelling. In Black studies in general, one of our goals is to retell history, to make sure that our history is told properly and from sources that care about us and that put us first and have our best interest at heart. And so when it was time to create a conference, the one thing I wanted to explore was the idea that there were not very many conferences in African American Studies in the city. I know we had the Black Family Conference, and so I wanted to kind of pay homage to that and emulate what that was and how great that was. And so I approached Miss Elmer Lucille, to see if it was okay for us to do a conference in her honor. She gave me a few demands of what it needs to be to live up to her legacy, and of course I appreciated that. And she's been involved in every single conference that we've had since then. She always approves our themes. This year, by the way, our theme is environmental injustice in the Black community. And so we'll be exploring that theme on various levels on February 18th and 19th. But you're right, the oral history is so important to us. Right now I'm teaching a course called African Civilizations, where we explore the idea that our oral history has led some people to take advantage of that and try to manipulate our history and teach it to our kids differently than it should be. And so I'm trying to take responsibility for that and make sure that we have our history in the right hand.
Now, when you said families, I remember when I was coming up with conferences, I remember Joseph McMillan.
Yes, sir.
I remember Reverend Coleman.
Yes, sir.
What was the other names that were involved in all that back then?
It's interesting that you asked, because I went to Temple University, and my dissertation chair was Dr. Malafi Asante.
Okay.
He frequented the Black Family Conferences a lot, and so did other Afrocentric thinkers and scholars from all over the world, actually. Now, we don't have that status yet with the Elmer Lucille Allen Conference. We're certainly wanting to get there so that we can bring international speakers here as well.
Yeah, because there's no doubt Louisville was a focal point at one
Absolutely.
time on that, and people like Miss Lucille was part of that. I mean, I don't remember from the time I was at University of Louisville or Farm Creek High School that her name didn't come up, Reverend Cole, because they drove this community.
Absolutely.
And it was people before them too, don't get me wrong, but those that influenced me were people like her. When I say legacies matter, it's their legacies that carry things on like this.
Absolutely.
So Ms. Lucille, I know you're 93 years young.
That's right.
Right? And 93 years, I mean, you've always been positive whenever we see you. Whenever you always make people feel that, like you said, speak to people.
Yeah.
You've always spoke to people. How do you feel your legacy up to the day? What do you think you left here for people to get, or for young people to get?
First of all, I would say like this, you have to give back to the community. And the first two people who graduated from Nazareth College, I set up a scholarship for them. And they were Roberta Lauderdale and Barbara Miller, who was a librarian.
Mm-hmm.
And every year I give $2,000 to Spalding University in their name. And I think that we need to support the people who have gone before us,
Right.
because tomorrow is not promised. And also, I think that we need to, what can I say? Is that we say we do things, but it's not always spoken. And now that I am my age, I sit around and I see so much is going on and it's changed. Yet they're changing, but they're not changing enough. They're not doing enough for our young people. And I just like to say that as an artist and as a scientist, I would like to see more African Americans go in those directions. Because when you sit down and think about Brown-Forman, which is where I retired from, they have given a lot to the African American community. I grew up at 18th and Chestnut, and I never realized that I would be working at Brown-Forman, which was at 18th and Garland, and back in those days. And when you talk about those days, we walked everywhere. You talk about busing.
Mm-hmm.
We walked to school. We walked to school. And I walked to Municipal College. I walked to Nazareth College. And nowadays, they're busing kids, but are they learning? No, something is missing now. And I don't know how we're going to solve the problem. But I just like to say that I appreciate everything that people have done for me. But what I do out of my heart. And everything that I've done, I haven't been paid for anything that I've done. All the art that I have, I donated. And this past year, I donated a piece. I'm gonna give you a piece to Ivy Tech, and over there. Huh?
I said I was there with you.
Yeah, Ivy Tech, and that was so interesting because William Duffy had given a piece. No, they had bought a piece from William Duffy, but they asked me if I would donate a piece, and I said, yes. So, and what they did, they put it between the library and the entrance, and they got it encased in glass. And I will send you a little video. It's only about a couple of seconds, but it's something that will be there, that they can say that this young lady donated this to Ivy Tech. So every day you pass this, and when you sit down and say, people talk about sewing. I learned how to sew as a little girl. My grandmother made all of my clothes. My grandmother did, and I learned how to sew, and I do shibori, and I'm still sewing by hand. But I love enjoying working with people, and I hope that what I have left here will go on forever.
Oh, it's
Thank
no
you.
doubt. It's no doubt. I mean, when I talk about like your support, Ed Hamilton,
Yeah.
I have William Duffy. Matter of fact, I got Ed's pieces, I got Duffy's
Yeah.
pieces, and it'll be an honor to have a piece from you,
Okay,
right?
okay.
But when we talk about history and giving back, the greatest king, African king said, The greatest king plants shade trees knowing he'll never sit up under them.
Yeah.
And you have planted so many shade trees
Yeah.
that in this city
Okay.
that young people can sit up under and say, Miss Lucille helped start this and do this. And it has to be, it has to feel good to know that you spent your life giving back.
Yeah.
And when I did the museum, like I said, it became purpose driven, but I realized in our community, we've lost that spirit that our story matters, right? And we don't, like you donating a piece and everybody else want to sell pieces, right?
Yeah.
But for us to have our legacy, we need a house that would house our legacy and not bring it out every February, right?
Yeah.
But tell our story 365 days
Yeah.
a year. And that's what I love about artists like you, Ed, Delphi, that you guys are putting your art out there for us to control and tell a story.
Yeah.
And for our children to feel proud about artists that look like them created that, right? And we talk about how our history doesn't matter, but every major museum in the country have our artwork in it.
Yeah.
Right? I've stolen our artwork, right? And now I have a museum that's ours. I call it Our House. Route 101, Our House. This is our house. And about that, everything that's beautiful belongs in here.
Yeah.
So we can tell a story for our kids to have it for the next 93 years, and beyond. But as a profession, and I love education, went to University of Louisville, but I really miss my HBCU experience because I sent so many my kids to HBCUs.
Right.
And I wonder what Lamont Collins would have been if I went to Spelman. Not Spelman, couldn't go Spelman. That's a wrong school, right? Or Morehouse or something like that. What would I be today?
Right.
When you're intentional about your blackness and who you are, I just wonder in the next generation, will we ever get back to responsibility to who we are? When I watch athletes today, they're saying everything. They only do code switch. You remember we used to do code switch?
Yeah.
Like when you're around certain people, you did certain things. Now we don't even teach our kids how to do that. It's like be you. What's being you means when you don't own nothing or do nothing. So where do we get back from an educational standpoint to put the responsibility on our children to do the right thing and be as professional in whatever they do?
I think for us, or for me, in the African American Studies program, with the new politics, and they're not so new, but they change every 4 to 6 years, the flavor of whatever's going on in the United States.
Yeah, but you're right. Nothing new.
Right. When that happens, I think in order to deal with that, we have to be, like you are, in control of our own narrative. I think it's important for us to be able to tell the story to the grassroots and to not rely on institutions like universities to educate us. I think that maybe there was a period of time where we were kind of caught up in that. I was blessed because I went to the University of Louisville and they have the Pan-African Studies department there. I spent 6 years there.
And who's the professor when you were there? Hudson?
So Dr. Hudson, of course, created the program, but there was also, rest in peace, Dr. Douglas, Bob Douglas, Dr. Ricky Jones was my chair for
Yvonne
the most of the time
Jones.
over there.
See, I did,
Dr. Yvonne Jones.
See, when I went to
was also
school,
chairman
I
of the
couldn't get a
Historic.
major, it was a minor.
Right.
And there was Yvonne Jones there,
Right.
Dr. McMillan.
Yeah.
But it was the most, and statistically, when black children take Pan-African studies in college, they do super well.
Right.
So, and I try to, I sit on some boards at U of L, community action boards, and I try to stress the importance of our kids coming and understanding who we are. It's the greatest recruitment we have is to understand who we are ourselves. But to get people to kind of understand that, but you got to build a person inside. I always talk about the Jewish community.
Yeah.
First thing they do is teach their kids their history from the time they're 3 years old. And then after they teach them that they survived the Holocaust, how they survived biblical times, from making bricks in the straw, but everything about them, their kids learn their survivors, right? But our kids don't get any history, right? We're not pouring our history into them. And then the Jewish community is told two things: never forget and never again.
Right.
That's profound.
Yeah.
Never forget and never again.
Yeah.
Now, if our kids learn that, never forget what happened in history, but never repeat it.
Right.
And how strong our kids would be.
That's true.
When Miss Lucille talk about artwork, just talk about science. It was in Africa, the people that looked like us that was doing underground sewer system. And we talk about stars in the skies. It was black people like us that was writing and drawing about the stars,
Absolutely.
astrology, and then writing about the God that made the stars.
Exactly.
So when our kids understand that, would they walk different? Would they talk different, and would they be different if their story was told to them?
So, and that's the nature of our conference. Our first day, actually February 18th, is dedicated to young people. We chose to do that on a day where JCPS was out. We have a deal that we're working with. I didn't speak to you about this,
No, okay.
but TARC is going to donate free TARC tickets to young people that want to come to the
Oh,
conference.
okay, that's great.
On the 18th. And our keynote for that day is a group of high school students who are investigating issues of lead, specifically in the Shively, Rubbertown area.
Okay.
And so they're going to be interviewing some folks. It's going to be really, really nice. And I think that one of the things that we have to embrace as educators is developing new styles to educate our young people, and also allowing our young people to educate, to self-educate.
I love it.
And for us to be there to guide and to listen. So this is a different kind of twist to our conference, but we've always wanted to include our young people. We're having a grassroots fair on the 18th as well, so anyone that has a youth-led or youth-serving organization, definitely reach out to me and let us know if you would like to have a table. Tables are free, but sponsorship does cost, and so you can find yourself in our program for a small fee, but we don't charge for anyone to have tables to provide information for our young people.
That's beautiful about the environment, but again, history. Reverend Coleman was talking about that a long time ago at the West End about brownfields and all that. People were talking like it was crazy.
Absolutely, yes.
And then when he passed away, all of a sudden nobody talks about brownfields anymore,
No.
right? But he was putting such a demand in the city to clean up our area that I think we kind of lost that struggle he was putting out there, or that fight.
Right.
But I'm glad that you're bringing it back up, because environment does work, it does happen.
And I also want to mention, if you don't mind, that throughout the whole month of February, and I know that we celebrate Black History Month forever, every day, we have an art exhibit that's going to be dedicated to Miss Elmer Lucille Allen. It's free of charge. Anyone can come and check it out. It's going to be all Black women artists, and they're going to be doing their own personal interpretations of the art that Miss Elmer Lucille has done.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So she does ceramics. I don't know a lot about art, but I do know that she does ceramics. I've seen some of her work.
Well, I know I make the same. I know I make the same one I made in the first grade. I
can't even do that.
That's the reason I don't even draw, because I made the same horse I did in the first grade that I made in the 12th grade. So I put a pencil down. But it's beautiful what both of you doing.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is called Deeply Rooted. And when I say deeply rooted in the community. And having you as professors teaching about education, having the legacy of Miss Lucille, it's an honor for Roots 101 to have you guys here today. In closing, anything you want to say?
Well, I would just like to say, I'm grateful that Deontay is exponing, because that was when I went there, it was a Catholic school, an all-girls school, and then it became integrated. And to see an African-American man on staff, I am very proud of that.
That's beautiful.
And I'm happy to be here, man. I've drawn so much inspiration from Miss Elmer Lucille, and also from yourself. You may not even know it, but I'm just excited to be able to do my part in this community. I want the conference to be something that lives on, past, beyond myself, and so that we can always remember not only Miss Elmer Lucille, but other folks that have followed in her footsteps, and that even she drew inspiration from in this city. And I would like for this conference to end up being a nationally recognized conference in African American studies specifically as time goes on.
Well, speak to it. Go ahead. Tell them the date and time again.
So again, February 18th is our first day. It's dedicated to our young people.
Give the address.
So we will be at Sparta University, which is located on 4th Street, just south of Broadway. Our conference will be in different locations within our campus, and our second day is mostly for our academic presentations. February 19th, our keynote speaker is Dr. Tommy Parker, and he's going to be talking about what is the future of environmental injustice within the Black community, specifically here in Louisville. So I invite everybody to come out, and we will be getting information out. We've had the call for papers out, which is due on January the 6th. So if you would like to participate or even to present, please go to Spalding's website and you will be able to find information about our conference there.
All right, well, thank you for coming. This is Lamar Collins, Deeply Rooted. Remember, legacies matter and education matters too. Be blessed.